Ever since 1995, when Toyota first released the Avalon, it's been marked as their flagship sedan, and it's been a pretty popular car in its market, but before now it's been focused more towards an older audience. Now, with this all-new 2019 Avalon, Toyota's been trying to make it appeal to younger people like me and maybe your parents instead of your grandparents. Let's check out how well Toyota's done with this all-new 2019 Toyota Avalon Limited. So first, starting on the outside, the exterior color of this particular Avalon is called Wind-Chilled Pearl. It's pretty much just any other white pearl that you'll see on most other Toyotas, but I actually like the color, especially in the limited trim with those 18-inch alloy wheels. It just has an elegant look to it that the old Avalon sort of had, but this one just sort of does a better job. It just has a nicer, larger stance to it, sort of shows its dominance, especially with that huge grille. A lot of people don't like the grille. I don't know how I feel about it. It's sort of growing on me, just little by little every time I see it. But first, you'll see that you have full LED headlights. So you have LED low beams and high beams, and Toyota calls it LED Vision Tech, if you can see that over there. They put that on the lens. And coming on this side, you can see the turn signals over here, and it's more like a sequential design, but because of US headlight laws, this part has to come on regularly, and this is the only part that strobes like that. You don't get any fog lights on the Avalon, but you do have parking sensors over here, which are pretty well integrated into the grille. And behind the Toyota logo is one of the sensors for the Toyota Safety Sense, and also up on the windscreen too. And there's one of your cameras for this 360 view. If you come to underneath the side view mirror, there's one right there. There's a bunch of cameras all over the car. And like I said, these are 18-inch alloy wheels. These come standard on the Limited. There's a bunch of different options for wheels for the Avalon, just depending on the trim level that you get. Coming along the side to the mirrors, you have LED turn signal indicators on them, and they are heated, and you also have the blind spot monitor. But I'm surprised they're not power folding. Maybe that's something that was reserved for the new ES, but I was sort of expecting that, even if it is a Toyota. And now coming along the back, you have these beautiful full LED taillights, and they still also have that same sequential design, but just like the headlights, one of the pieces of the turn signal have to be solid instead of progressing, but the middle part does the sequential thing. And the reverse lights are also LEDs as well, so that's a really nice touch. But full LED brake lights, turn signals, reverse lights, all you can name it, and LED plate lights. I've just looked at that. Car's covered with bugs, I'm sorry about that. And you have really nice Avalon lettering along the back, and I like how the taillights just wrap around the whole trunk. It really looks nice. I like the rear end of this car a lot, especially how the taillights have a 3D look to them. It's really cool in my opinion. Now coming to the bumper, you have two exposed exhaust tips. You can sort of see the actual pipe down there, but they look nice. It doesn't look cheap, and I'm glad that they didn't make actual fake tips like how other cars do, because you can actually see the exhaust coming from the muffler into the large chrome tip. Now coming over to the trunk, the button is right here between the O and the N, and you just press that. It's not a power trunk, but it does open up all the way. Now in the trunk of the Avalon, you get just around 16 cubic feet of volume, actually 16.1. And it's a pretty large size trunk. It's 1 cubic foot larger than most other mid-size sedans, because this car is classified as a full-size sedan. But as you can see all around the car, it has the optional rubber mats and rubber trays. So if you're looking at an Avalon, this would be an extra option. But under that mat, finagle it, but you have to lift this little tab. And then underneath, you get a donut as your spare tire. It's right there. And you get a bunch of tools like the jack and everything that you would expect out of a car that has a spare tire. But the rear seats also do fold down. It's a 60-40 split. This side is the 40 and this side is the 60, and you have the little grab handles on both sides over here. And before we get in, looking at the key fob, it's Toyota's newer design of key fob. I think they started doing it with the Camry, the all-new 18 Camry, but you have your lock, unlock, trunk release, and panic button, and I like the design of it. I like that it shows Avalon on it, and I believe the Camry shows Camry there. But it's a really nice size, fits in my hand pretty nicely.
That's what she said. That's what she said. That's what she said.
And it just feels pretty high quality. Now with that, you have the smart key access system, so you can just walk up to the car with the key in your purse or your pocket, and to unlock it, just grab the door handle, and then to lock it, just press this little indentation over here and it'll beep once, and unlocking it makes it beep twice. So getting inside, the interior color of this car is called Flaxen. It's pretty much like a brown. I really like this interior color. I'm really much a fan of brown interiors, and it's a full leather interior everywhere, and real wood, actually, real wood and leather, which is pretty impressive. You have this dark brown wood. I'm not sure on what the name of it is, but I really like how it feels like you're touching an old antique desk, but in a good way. And all soft touch materials for the upper door panel, the center of the door panel, and really beautiful designs of stitching over here, and a soft touch armrest, of course. All 4 windows are automatic. There's your door locks, window locks, and mirror controls, and you have 2-person memory for the driver's seat, steering wheel, and mirrors. Over here you have a little bottle holder and some storage with that. And you have these really nice Avalon kick plates, I believe those come standard. Now looking at the seat, you have a 12-way power driver's seat, and I believe it's the same for the passenger seat. And these seats are heated and cooled, one thing that you would miss from the Camry. That's why I'd go up to the Avalon. The seats are really comfortable. I've been driving this car for a little bit today, and the seats, I have nothing to complain about them. It's really nice. I love the texture of it. All the holds are different sizes, and I love all the stitching everywhere. This car really is impressive to me. And like I said earlier, you have the rubber trays over here. Now looking at the dash before I get inside, here's the odometer trip control, which resets the trip computer and all that kind of and stuff like that, which resets the trip computer. And right here is the brightness for the gauges, and over here you have your auto high beams button, which turns them on or off, traction control off, heated steering wheel, trunk release, fuel release, and the view button, which changes the views for the 360 view camera. And the hood release is right here, and the parking brake is actually electronic. Unlike last year's model, which had the foot brake, now it's electronic over here. Now, getting inside, the step-in height's actually really good, and I'm really impressed with what Toyota has done with this interior. It's very, very upscale looking and very elegant. Now to start the car, make sure your foot's on the brake and press the start button to go. And of course, you have to have the key inside the car. So just start it up. And it's a really quiet engine. It's that 3.5 liter V6. Same one in the Camry, makes the same power, 301 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. So it's a pretty good motor, and it sounds pretty good too. We'll hear it later on in the video. But looking at the steering wheel, you have more of that brown leather on the sides, and on the top and bottom, it's a brown material. I really like the design of it. And again, it also came with the Camry. Now looking at the left side of the wheel, you have your volume and audio controls. So here's the volume, voice control. This controls the phone, so it allows you to pick up and hang up. And this pad over here controls the multi-informational display, which I'll show you guys in a second. Now over here, you have all your cruise control settings and more audio settings like the mode button and the track forward backward button, which also goes through your presets. And these are all the cruise control settings. So this is your adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, which both work pretty well on regular driving and on cruise control. This button turns cruise control on and off. There's set, resume, and cancel like most other vehicles. And behind the steering wheel, you have your headlight controls, which are automatic, and your wiper controls, which I'm surprised they're not rain sensing on this model. That might be an option, or that might also be reserved for the ES350, which is coming out in the next coming months. And also the steering wheel is power tilt and telescopic, which is a nice thing to have, and it's something that I would expect in the Avalon. And now looking at the dash up close, you have more of that soft touch brown leather material over here with really nice stitching. I like the stitching in this car. That's pretty much the theme for this video, stitching. But also you have the JBL premium audio system in the limited Avalons as well, which sounds really, really nice. The audio is very crisp. I would like it to be a little bit better on the bass, but it's not too much to complain about. But you have more of that wood trim over here. All of the dash is soft touch material, really nice feeling. This is not leather up here. This feels more like injection molding. And coming along the other side, you have more of that wood trim that crosses all over the dash, and more brown material over here. This is plastic over here, but that doesn't really bother me because it's somewhere that you'd never really touch beside the button. Looking at the glove box, since we're already here, it's damped of course, and it's actually pretty shallow. I was expecting something a little bit bigger.
SOS, locate DJL. That's what he says? Damn it.
But it has a pretty good depth. You could fit probably an iPad mini in there, maybe even a regular sized iPad. And one thing I just noticed, I really like this part of the dash because it looks like the whole air vent goes through this whole side of the dash while it's only over here. I like this little chrome looking piece that's up here. Now looking at the gauges, I really like how they look. I like the font. It's really easy to look at, and I like the clear white font of everything. Now on the left you have your tachometer and your temperature gauge. In the center you have your information display, and on the right you have your speedometer and fuel gauge. Now looking at the center display, just like the Camrys that you'll see, you use these buttons to control it. So the first page that you'll see is information. So first this shows the digital speedometer and the range. Now it shows fuel economy and the eco indicator, so it just shows a bunch of vehicle information. Down here is your driving support, so it shows your compass, and it also shows the status of the lane departure warning and all the adaptive cruise control and all the safety systems. There's the audio. So this is where you'd actually turn on or off all the safety systems. There's the vehicle settings, at least for the little display. There's the vehicle warnings and messages, which there are none, and we're back to the information screen. Now coming up to the center of the car, you have this really nice looking 8-inch touchscreen display which uses Entune 3.0. And I guess I could say I'm a fan of it just because of how sleek everything is and how easy everything is compared to some Lexuses or other luxury vehicles. This is a lot easier to use, and and it's not as distracting. So this is the home screen, and you have all of these hard touch buttons like home, menu, audio, map, see, track forward and backward, phone, apps, and it's nice that you have a volume and power knob over here and a tuning knob over there. Now looking at the main menu, destination is where you'd plug in an address for the navigation. And speaking of navigation, looking at the map, I really like how big the display is. It's just really clear. While you're driving, you can easily glance over, and the screen is large enough and clear enough to just look at it and you're already set. Also, the car has a heads-up display, so if you go into the settings, you can select the heads-up display in this little menu up here. And if you can see that, it shows the tachometer, the compass, and what gear you're in. So it's pretty nice. You have to adjust the level and the brightness of it to accommodate how you're sitting in the car, but for my driving position it's already perfect. But like I said, the whole infotainment system is very simple and easy to use, especially for the older buyers out there. Hi if you're watching. But everything is really simple to use, and I wouldn't really be that confused about it. You also have Apple CarPlay and Amazon Alexa, but you don't have Android Auto just yet. That hopefully will come in an update, but I'm not sure if it's anytime soon. Down here you have dual zone automatic climate control. Here's the control for the driver's side, and here's the passenger side. And you also have heated and ventilated seats. They are also 3-stage, which is nice, especially on a 90-degree day like this, which feels a lot worse than that. But anyways, here are the hard touch buttons for the climate control. And like I say about some other vehicles, I like that all the climate controls are in a separate little place in the car instead of being crammed up into the infotainment. It just makes it a lot easier to use, and it's still, there's not that many buttons. But over here, this is the most buttons that you'll see in this car. There's the auto, off button, front and rear defrost, fan speed, mode, recirculation, AC, and sync. Sync makes both sides the same temperature. Now down here you have this nice leather piece right here where you rest your knee while driving. Nice that they thought about you over here. And you have some more stitching over here. Also down here is a nice little leather piece, and if you push this back it reveals the Qi wireless charger, which works with my iPhone 8 Plus, so that's a nice feature, and it's nice and hidden away so you can hide your phone or anything you want in there.
Cocaine.
And deep down in there, there is a power outlet, which is 12 volts, which you could plug in a car charger or something. Now down here, you have an 8-speed automatic transmission, which is shiftable, but you don't have paddle shifters like the Camry. And when you put the car into reverse, you have a 360 view camera with guidance lines which do steer with the wheel. But one problem I have with most Toyotas now is that the quality of the backup cameras and the 360 view camera isn't as sharp as I'd like and as sharp as most of its competition, but you do have different views, and this turns on the sound for the parking sensors, but you have different views like a wide view, a normal view, and the wide view with the top down view. And you also have rear cross traffic alert, the blind spot monitor. Now putting the car back in park, behind the shifter, the drive mode selection is right here. It's only 3 modes, eco, normal, and sport, and they all change throttle response and steering. That's pretty much it. And they all change how the car drives, like throttle response and steering and all that kind of stuff that goes in with the driving experience. Over here you have the brake hold button, which holds the brakes until you hit the gas pedal when you're at a red light. And there's the electronic parking brake. You pull it to engage it and you click it down while your foot's on the brake to disengage it. You have 2 bottle holders over here. They're just different shapes, but they are the same size. They're pretty decently sized. You can't fit a big gulp in there, but it's not that bad. Now over here you have more of that leather material, which feels really nice, and stitching in the middle of that. But to open the center console, you just push this little button over here, and then that reveals 3 USB ports. The exposed one is the one that you use for CarPlay, and there's an aux jack above that. But you have 2 2.1 amp USB ports to charge your phones or whatever devices you have. And behind that you have this little tray that is removable, and the center console is felt lined, but it's not too big, but it's not overwhelmingly small. Over here, looking at the rearview mirror, it is auto dimming, and you have home link for 3 garage doors. And above that, you have LED lighting all around the car, which gives the car a more premium effect, which I do like. And this button changes the mood lighting, which is one cool thing about this car. You'll see at night the door handles illuminate, and you have foot lights, and it's a really nice place to be at night in this car. And this controls how the lights work, like door, or just have all the interior lights on right now. Over here are the sunroof controls. This lets you tilt it, and this lets you open and close it. And it is one touch, but it's just a regular pane sunroof. I guess they reserved the panoramic roof for the ES. And over here is your Toyota Safety Connect button, which is like OnStar and 911 Assist. Over here you have visors with lights and mirrors. I wish these were LEDs. And yes, Jacob and Yuri, I say this in every video, but this car even says it. It does pass the visor test. So getting into the rear, the car still retains all of the materials that you have in the front, so soft touch upper door panel and center door panel, and that same pretty stitching over here. And like I said, the rear window is automatic, and you have a soft touch armrest, and you have a bottle holder and a little storage compartment over here, and more Avalon scuff plates. Now looking at the rear seats, you still have that same pretty looking perforation in the seats, but these are only heated. The buttons are right there, and you also have 2 USB ports and air vents back here, which is a nice thing to have. I wish there was a third climate control, but that might also be reserved for the ES or other Toyota products. But it is a piano black material, which I'm not really a fan of. It might get a little dusty. Just something that you might have to clean periodically. This car also does have the rear rubber trays. I really do recommend getting rubber trays just because it saves you in the winter time. You also have map pockets behind the seats as well. Now getting inside the rear, the driver's seat is at my preferred driving position, and I have about 3 or 4 inches of legroom, which is pretty nice, and you can put your feet under the seat as well. So I'm actually really comfortable, and headroom is actually really good too. I have maybe 1.5 inches, but I'm about 5'8", 5'9", so I'm really comfortable back here. And the headrests are actually pretty soft. Like some other cars, they're like cardboard or rock solid. Now next to me, you'll see you have a folding center armrest with 2 cup holders over here and a little place that you could put your phone. It'll hold up right there, and it's soft touch with more stitching. There's a lot of details in this car that most people won't really pick up, but it's nice that Toyota included it. And you have more of that LED lighting up here. Now getting under the hood, like I said, the hood latch is right here, and the hood latch under the hood is right to the center of the Toyota logo, and you just pull up, and like you'd expect, the car does have gas struts for the hood. Now under the hood of this car, it shares the same engine as the Camry, so it's a 3.5 liter port-end direct injected V6 that makes 301 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. The car actually feels pretty lively, especially this car is almost 4,000 pounds, just about under it, maybe around 3,800 pounds, and this thing gets up to 60 miles an hour in about 6.5 to 7 seconds, which is actually pretty respectable, and it sounds pretty good as well. Now about fuel economy, you should be expecting 22 miles per gallon in the city, 31 on the highway, and a combined rating of 25. And if that isn't good enough for you, Toyota also makes a hybrid model for this car, which gets the mid 30s and low 40s. So that's also another option that if you guys do want to see a video on that, I will make it. Now let's see how this thing sounds. I think it sounds pretty good, so let's take this thing out on a drive and see how it does. Now my first impressions, if you're just driving off the lot with this thing on a test drive, you're gonna notice that this thing is really smooth. It does a fantastic job of just being a really good luxury car. And this thing compares with stuff like the LaCrosse and other sort of full-sized vehicles, and I think this thing really does a good job. Now we're gonna pull up on this straight road, and well, at least a little bit. Let me put myself in sport. This isn't something that you'd normally do, but that was kind of uphill too. That was okay. I mean, it puts you in your seat. It's really quick. There's another one up here. So I'm gonna slow down, get a little dig, and then punch it. Okay. Yeah. It's good. I mean, for day-to-day driving, this is fantastic. In sport mode, which most people, I don't think if you guys would be using sport mode too much, but sport mode stiffens up the steering and you can definitely notice it. And also the throttle response is a little bit more sensitive, and around these sort of tight corners, it really takes the corners nicely. There's a little bit of body roll as you'd expect. The brakes feel really nice too. But as you'd expect from an Avalon, there is some body roll. If you really want a sporty model, I'd go for the XSE, which gives you features of the Limited just in a more sporty package. You get different wheels, stiffer suspension, and a bunch of kind of stuff like that. But driving in normal mode now, it's really quiet, really nice. The engine is just quiet in general, even if you're having fun with it. It's just a really quiet motor. The suspension really soaks up the bumps really nicely. And it's just a really comfortable car to be. I see why a lot of people like this car. The seats are actually pretty comfortable too, and the cooled seats work really well. Now also, if this is kind of like your daily driver or commuter car, I think you'd have a pleasant time in this car. The Avalons have always been pretty nice, but I've sort of pushed them away just because they've always been considered an older person's car, and I really don't think that this car is considered as your grandpa's Avalon anymore. It's just a completely different animal compared to older Avalons that were just really squishy and soft. They were comfortable, but they were not sporty. And I don't know if an Avalon should be sporty. I guess that's why you would go to Lexus or some other people. But it's nice. It's a nice car. It's a nice all-around car. It does a lot of things very well. And I'm pretty happy with how this thing performs. Like, getting on the highway, not a problem at all. Power has never really been that huge of an issue with Avalons. Like, merging on the highway, very nice. And the gearing in this car is actually pretty nice too. It doesn't hunt for gears like some other 8 or 9 speed transmissions, even made by other brands. I'm at about 60 miles an hour right now, and I'm just at maybe around 1400 RPM, which I think the highway number of this car is pretty achievable. So I wouldn't have that many doubts, and this is a really good highway cruiser. You feel like you're on a cloud right now. It's so smooth, and the audio system, just those two things combined, makes a really great ride. And passing power, that's not even floored. It pushes you back in your seat, so Grandma's gonna be getting to church pretty quick.
I just punch. Yeah! Punch it, Margaret! I love it!
The steering is really responsive. Now, using adaptive cruise control, now lane departure assist, it'll beep and slightly nudge the wheel. It's not an active system, so it's not like Honda's, how it'll actively hold the wheel for you. It just gives you a little warning. It'll beep and vibrate the wheel a little bit. And around freeway off-ramps and on-ramps, the car handles really nicely. It really pulls. But even for what this car is, it's a really good handling car. The brakes are kind of progressive. There's not that much of a dead spot. You can definitely feel the torque in this new motor, especially even on the Camry too. There's a slight amount of torque steer. At 70 miles an hour, there's a lot of road noise. This is something I would expect from a Honda. But at the end of the day, this is still a Toyota. So Toyota is still trying to keep some of a reason to go up to the ES. So the ES has a lot more sound deadening and just a lot more materials that make this car a nicer place to be. Now for trim levels, the Avalon starts at the XLE, which is $35,500. then the Hybrid XLE, which is $36,500, then the XSE, which is $38,000, then the Hybrid XSE, which is $39,000, then the Touring, which is $42,200, then the Limited, which is $41,800, and finally the Hybrid Limited, which is $42,800. And most hybrid models will get 43 miles per gallon. And about competition, it would be cars like the Acura RLX, Nissan Maxima, Buick LaCrosse, Chevy Impala, which is going out of existence unfortunately, the Ford Taurus, Kia Cadenza, Lincoln MKZ, and a few other vehicles. So I hope you all enjoyed getting up close and personal with the Toyota Avalon with me today. And if you have any questions about it, you can leave them in the comments below or send me an email. It's in the description below. If you like videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button. And I hope to see you guys in the next videos to come. Bye peeps.